welcome to the Swan Effect Mum's Coffee and Chat podcast. I'm Lynne, and this week I'm being joined by Lee, and the topic we're going to be discussing is the co-parenting dad. So, hi Lee, how are you doing this week?
Hi, good morning, Lynne. You're right? Yeah, very well, thank you.
Bad. So, thank you ever so much for agreeing to do this with me. We met via, I think it was Instagram, wasn't it? You're not on any other platforms, are you?
No.
And you don't
Instagram.
have a dad account either or anything. It doesn't say anything dad in your account.
Not particularly. No, I've dabbled in the kind of Insta dad thing, but because I only have my daughter every couple of weeks, it just doesn't work. So
yeah, I think that was it. I think what had happened was I think there was a mutual friend, Emma. I am Emma B, and she had you, and I'd seen it, and I followed you then. And I'd messaged you and said, look, can I interview you on my podcast? And you actually said, I only see my daughter every other weekend. And I replied back and I said, you're still a dad, and and it was true. And, and you don't realize actually, Lee, how common your situation is a lot. Like my partner was a co-parenting dad for years, and he still is now, I suppose, in a way. Even though they're adults, if something happens, they both have to call each other up, the parents, and speak to each other about how they're going to deal with things. And it never leaves you being a co-parent, and you're still her dad.
Absolutely.
So this is why I really want to speak to you, because I think this will help a lot of listeners. So we'll start off the questions. I always ask this question. So where do you live and who do you live with?
Yeah, so I live in Warwickshire, kind of born and bred in this area. And for the most part, obviously, apart from when I have Sienna, I live with my now fiance, Jasmine. We've been here together for actually 3 years. We've been living together on the 20th of April. So just a few days ago, we celebrated our third kind of living together anniversary.
Oh, lovely.
But we've been together since October 17. So just under 4 years we've been together for.
Brilliant, fab. And how old is Sienna? And when did you and her sorry, start again, Lynne. Tell us about your daughter Sienna. How old is she and what's her personality like and things like that?
Yeah, so Sienna is kind of 9.5-ish now. She'll be 10 in October. She's got a lovely, bubbly personality. I mean, I can't deny the fact that she has been quite badly affected by the separation of myself and her mum, and we have had our problems with her, and we're obviously still trying to deal with a few now, but overall she's very, very loving. Unfortunately, I hate to kind of go with a negative vibe on this, but with the separation, a lot of poison was kind of fed to Sienna about me, about my kind of family, and it's took a lot, but Sienna I really believe she knows what side of bread's buttered on. Yeah. And it hasn't let her feelings towards me or her grandma or granddad, obviously my mum and dad, to be affected at all. Yeah. And we have such a fantastic bond. She's so loving, so caring. She wants nothing but to sit with me on the sofa and cuddle up and everything like that. It's lovely. Yeah.
So what age was she when you and her mum decided to part ways?
So she was 5. Yeah, she was about 5.5. She was. So, I mean, fortunately for me, she was my first child biologically, which I'd kind of seen from day dot, and obviously enjoyed the very young years with her every day, which was, I'm still to this day grateful for that I was able to kind of be there from the beginning. Yeah. But yeah, she was 5 when we split up, and at the time, I kind of went back to live with my parents. Yeah, we're only literally around the corner from where we all used to live. So I used to have her every weekend, kind of alternate Saturday, Sundays. I used to pick her up from school on a Wednesday, pick her up from dancing on a Thursday. Yeah. So at the time, it was really good until they decided to move quite far away. Hence now the 2-week arrangement.
So how far away is she then?
So I live in Warwickshire and they live in Derbyshire now. So it's roughly 40 to 50 miles each way to pick her up and drop her off. And unfortunately, her mother's not really very keen on helping with the dropping off, picking up. So it's a kind of 200-mile round trip for me every other week.
So you don't meet halfway at a certain like service station or anything?
no, we were never able to get an amicable agreement with that. So, obviously I wanted to see my daughter more than anything, and I'd drive to the end of the earth for her. So
yeah,
it's on me, but I'll do it no matter where she was. So
you're not the only dad that drives miles and miles and miles to see their kids every other weekend. I know a friend of mine in work, her partner, he would drive 3 hours every other weekend just to pick his daughter up. Again, the mother wouldn't meet halfway or anything like that. I mean, I don't know. You only got one side, haven't you? But I just remember thinking, wow, you would at least, even if it was just an hour or something, go, look, I've got other kids. I can't drive 3 hours to drop her off, but let's meet halfway or an hour in or whatever. God, so how did you handle the situation? Because 5.5, she's very young, but she's at that, she'll remember things at that age. They grasp in things at that age, aren't they? So how did you handle the situation with her, and what steps did you take to ensure it wouldn't be too big of an impact on? I mean, you can't get away with it. It was going to be an impact. You're there every day and then you're not. There's no way of getting around that. And how did she? And you're saying you're still having certain issues with her, but how long did it take for her to settle into a new routine with you?
I think, to be honest, Lynn, myself and my ex-wife, we parted quite quickly. It was built up over a long, long time, but in the end, I got to the stage where I couldn't stand it anymore.
Yeah.
So I was the one that left the family home, and I kind of left on the morning. We had a major dust up on the Saturday evening, and on a Sunday morning, I said, right, that's it. I can't do this anymore. And
it gets to the point where you think, from my personal experience, I've always said I'd never say too much with my life here with my partner, but it gets to the point where you think kids are picking up on rows, or even if you're not rowing and you're saving it for bedtime, they're picking up on the vibes. And and other friends of mine have said the kids are sensing it, and you think, at what point is this healthy for them to be in this, not toxic environment, that sounds too drastic, but just tense environment, tense atmosphere? And it's a big decision to go, do you know what, I'm going to step away from this, because it's not just that you're unhappy, but you can see eventually these kids, they're sensing it. They know when their mum and dad aren't getting on, and it can't be good for them, can it? Bless them.
No, it was, to be honest, I mean, toxic is quite a harsh word, but for our relationship, it was getting towards that. If I hadn't have left when I did, all sorts of things could have potentially happened.
That's it. It's leaving before it gets to that point, isn't it? Because that is what will have the lasting damage on your children. We're adults, we can take it to a point, put it on our shoulders and take it. But it's the kids that are watching or hearing it. And even if you think, oh, they're upstairs asleep, sometimes they're not. They're listening and they can hear things. Just got to get out before it gets to that point, I think.
I think the worst thing for Sienna was, I'm going to kind of discount talking about the other two children, but kind of from Sienna's point of view, for certainly the last few weeks of the relationship before we kind of called time on it, she was waking up, coming downstairs to breakfast, seeing me asleep on the sofa.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy, why are you down here again? Oh, sorry, me and your mum are not talking again, Bab, and this kind of thing. But when I did leave, I told the children that I was going to go and stay with Grandma and Grandad for a little bit. Obviously, at that time, I hadn't said it was permanent. I just said I'm going to go and kind of spend some time with Grandma and Grandad. Quite quickly after moving out and kind of shutting that front door for the last time, horrible as it sounds, it was a massive sense of relief from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of obviously quite quickly tried to arrange to have Sienna again for an evening. So I picked her up from school, tried to just do as many things as possible to try and keep a routine. My wife kind of, she did a lot of the evening work. So I kind of come back from work after a day. She would pretty much go straight up to work as soon as I got home. So it was always me that kind of put Sienna to bed, gave her a bath, spent a bit of time with her in the evening before bed kind of thing. And it was those kind of things that she missed, and obviously I missed as well. But overall, because she knew I was only around the corner, and I tried to do as much as I could to make it as normal as possible, she didn't seem to exhibit any kind of obvious upset. I mean, obviously she was, but she seemed relatively okay. It was more once she'd moved to where she is now, and knowing that she only sees me every fortnight, and the only other communication we have between ourselves is kind of like this.
Yeah. How long ago did she move away to Derbyshire then? Like how long ago?
Oh, okay. So we split up 4 years ago, and they've been in Derby coming up to 3 years in about June or July.
Just
so
wondering, I'm going off now. Like I haven't written this question down just because I think of questions. What rights do you know that dads have, or mums, you know, if it's working the other way around? If, for example, there's someone, the parent of the one that has the children mostly says, oh, I'm moving 3-4 hours down the road. What do you have any rights with that? Can you put in something and say, hang on, this isn't fair, this is my child, and you know, it needs to be closer? Is there any rights?
Well, when I first kind of heard about the fact that she was moving, and this was all because she'd met a new chap who
that's normally why it
lived
happens.
So I think we were gonna sell our family home, and then she was going to move in with him,
yeah,
where they are now. But she kind of told me quite off the cuff when I went and picked Sienna up one morning, and it felt like somebody just ripped my heart out. I felt like Derbyshire was like the other side of the world. And obviously we were going through the process of divorce at that time, so we were in regular contact with our respective solicitors. And I broached the subject with my solicitor about that. And the advice that I got was she can kind of move her anywhere within reason. So if she wanted to move to another country, she could. And obviously I could try and fight for it as much as I possibly could. But I can't stop her, basically. That was what I was told. So
it's tricky.
Yeah, Derby was bad enough, but if she'd have moved somewhere else, if she'd have moved to complete other side of the country
Scotland
or something like that, I couldn't have stopped her.
It's tricky, isn't it? It's so tricky because, say, for example, it was amicable, and then me and my partner split up, and I said, look, I've had this most amazing career opportunity, but it's in Scotland. What do you do? I think you'd have to go, do you know what? I'm gonna have to, I don't know. It's hard, isn't it? I really don't know how you can.
I think if it was something like that and we were amicable and half friendly, it would probably be a lot easier to handle. But in the situation that we were in, just Derbyshire just felt like a kick in the teeth, and it was kind of felt as though it was being done on purpose.
No, I know a friend of mine and her partner, husband, split up, and they had very young children also. I think they were maybe 4 and 6 or something at the time. And I mean, they're back together now, coincidentally, after the divorce and everything. 5 years later, they're back together. But at the time, he went to live with his mother as well. And because that wasn't that far away, about half an hour away, he would go to the swimming lessons. He would go to, I don't know, football practice and go and see them. He would pick up from, I don't know, whatever, karate classes or things like that. Or parents' evenings, they'd go together and things like that. And I always thought that's really lovely. But that was because he was close by. And, there's things like that. If they are close by, depending on the relationship with the mother or the father, whichever situation you're in, it's hard, isn't it? But at least you've got an opportunity to do that. And like you said, you put to bed every night, you read a book, things like that. All right, you wouldn't have done that in this situation, but you may have seen her more often if you live closer and get that sort of, it's such a hard situation. And I know
going from seeing her kind of at least 2 or 3 times. I mean, a couple of times a week, it was literally for half an hour, waiting for her outside school or dancing, having her in the car for half an hour before taking her home. But it was all time that I absolutely valued with my life. And going from that to just seeing her every fortnight, it was absolutely heartbreaking at the beginning.
Of course it was.
We're used to it now. We don't like it, but we just accept it now. It's the normal now. But
it is what it is. Got to deal with it and just make the best of it. So the next question I was going to ask, I was talking to a guy, Eddie, who I knew was a stay-at-home dad even, sorry. And I didn't really know much about his story. So when we did the podcast, he said, I've got 2 stepdaughters, 2 biological daughters, and then I've also got another biological daughter with my ex. And I said, oh, right, okay. So I didn't realize he was co-parenting as well. So he said, and we talked about the issues with the first lockdown and what it had with his time with his eldest daughter, who lives with her mum during the week. And because of isolation rules leading to, when in the very beginning, they'd say you've got to isolate for 10 days. And he said in school, it was happening all the time. So one kid would come in and have symptoms. Everyone had to isolate for 10 days. And he said, I would go weeks and weeks and weeks without seeing my daughter because she had to self-isolate all the time. So just wondering, how did you guys cope with, well, not just the first lockdown, the last 12 months? Has there been times where you've not been able to see each other because of lockdown rules? Or
at the very beginning, yes. Kind of shortly after the first lockdown was announced, the 26th of March, wasn't it, or something like that? We decided, because I think it was my weekend that I was due to have Sienna following that announcement, and myself and my ex-wife kind of decided that for now it would probably be best if she just stays with her mum. So we had kind of nearly a month where we didn't see each other. But apart from that, I've still had her every other weekend, because obviously soon after the first lockdown, they said obviously children that are living with, not living with a dad can still see them okay and all that. And so we decided that was going to be the case, and it's been fine. I mean, in terms of COVID, we actually think Sienna had COVID, and in February of 2020, because she was really ill and she had to go to hospital with a severe chest infection. She was in there for 3 or 4 days. I think it was before it got really big.
A lot of people are saying that, aren't they? Because I lost my taste and my smell in February.
Yes.
And never nothing else. That was it. And Phil was like, but that was before all this. And Phil says, I think you had COVID. And I said, maybe I did. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if she could have a antibody test to see if she's actually had it. But no. Apart from the first month, we've carried on with our fortnightly arrangement as best as possible. So luckily for us,
that's really good. So what do you guys do when you spend time together? Do you feel that, I just think of my dad. My mum and dad were together until he passed away last year, and it's because I've come from I was one of the strange ones in school. Like, they used to call us the Waltons. So I've got 4 children and my mum and dad, and no dramas. They never broke up or anything. And they used to say, oh God, you all get on so well. And we did, and then obviously I met my partner, and he was separated with 2 older children. And I was like, wow, I'd never seen co-parenting before. And it was like he said, it's very hard to go from a full-time dad to what he classes as a part-time dad, to change. You have to change what was important to him. So what do you do when you've got her? Do you feel like you just try and do the normal, like you said, sitting on the couch watching films, or do you try and do things and make memories with her?
It's interesting on that, because when we kind of first split up, and obviously while I was living with my parents around the corner, I was, I guess, trying to overcompensate for the fact that I wasn't there every day, and it got a lot to taking her out for the day, spending money, just trying to do what I thought was right, and it kind of ended up not so much for her, but for the other 2 at the time, that they only wanted to come to me if we were going out somewhere, or if I was going to treat them. And at the end of the day, I felt to myself, well, I'm not here as a treat. I'm your dad. I want to see you because I'm your dad, not because, I'm a treat. So slowly but surely, and certainly now, there isn't very often that obviously we've not been able to over the last kind of year. But Sienna just likes to be with me. So if she wants to go somewhere, we'll consider it, and we'll go to the park, or we'll go for a walk somewhere. But she's more than happy to just sit with me. Even if I'm out in the garden, sorting the garden out, she'll come out, help in the garden, cleaning the car. She'll come and help clean the car. But she's got a few little friends.
Life, isn't it?
Normal stuff. Yeah, and that's exactly what I wanted. I don't want to think of her to think of me as somewhere she goes every 2 weeks and she's absolutely spoiled rotten.
Yeah. And you know what? It's easy to do. It is so easy to do. And I said that to my partner. I get it. I do get it. But at the same time, kids need structure as well, don't they? And they need to know that
exactly.
You're still the same person. It's just that you've still got the same morals and everything, and the discipline and the rules, and it is hard. I get it. I know a lot of mums and dads that slip into that, and it's just easily done. But like you said, they just go, oh, what are we doing today then? Nothing. We'll just thought we chill. Oh, we're not going shopping. You're not going to buy me something. You're not. And you think, well, it's not about that, is it?
No, it's not. And to be honest, she's more than used to it now. She doesn't very often ask for stuff, and when she does, I feel as though she's asking for it for a genuine reason. So I do kind of treat her every so often for bits and pieces, and she's quite into her online gaming stuff. It's kind of seems to be a modern way of being social with her friends now, doesn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
And I'll kind of buy her. I'll put a bit of credit on her Nintendo Switch or on her iPad for her, especially if the weather's not brilliant. She can kind of keep herself occupied. You know, most of the time with me sat there, so watching her. You know, this is what I do now, Dad. I'm shooting this person now, Dad. Yeah, look, I'm doing all this and doing all that. And it's brilliant. Yeah, I've got a few jobs to do now. But no, she is very much like that. And luckily, she's got a few little friends around here now where I live, and they're kind of more out and about now on their electric scooters, you know, buzzing up and down the road and stuff like that. So
I was going to ask you about that because, you know, she's there on the weekends. I was saying, like, you haven't moved, have you? It's her that's moved. Is that right?
Well, no, I'm in a different house now, but I'm still kind of local to where we used to live and where she's always known.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of in the next town now. And over the 3 years that me and Jasmine have been living here, she's kind of got to know a few of the other kind of little kids her age.
Right.
And yeah, that they all play together. And that, obviously, with the restrictions we've had, it's not been so much. But you know, just this last weekend now, she's been out with a scooter all day Saturday, most of Sunday, absolutely loving it. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. I love that. So what, in your experiences, what have been the challenges and the best experiences of co-parenting? So obviously think about how it was when you were together and like you said, you just thought, I can't do this anymore. I've got to get out. So making that decision, obviously that's for you, that personally, that was the best decision for you and for, you know, Sienna. But what have then been the challenges since, and what have been the best things that you think, yeah, this is better now I'm a co-parenting dad?
I think the best parts of it is obviously being able to have Sienna in an environment that's full of nothing but love, really. I mean, me and Jasmine, we've been together nearly 4 years now, so the kind of honeymoon period's, you know, over to a degree, but we get on like our house on fire.
Yeah.
We don't have any problems in the house. You know, Sienna comes in, she knows she isn't going to hear me shouting, hear Jasmine shouting, you know, ignoring each other, that kind of thing. So from that perspective, it's really a nice kind of welcoming, loving home to be in.
Yeah.
You know, my mum and dad are exactly the same. She loves being around there. And yeah, it is. I think it's seeing me happy as well, because she could tell that I wasn't happy before.
Yeah.
Which makes it a lot better for her as well.
You go back to the beginning when you said, you know, that she was led to believe different things about you when you first left. I'm a great believer then, you know, fine, you've been told that. I'm not going to do anything differently. Eventually you will see for yourself that I am me and this is how I am. And they'll know the truth eventually, you know, they'll get that.
That's exactly what it is. Now. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. I mean, I think even now, poison's fed to her, not maybe so much by my ex-wife now, but by her 2 children. Kind of you know, and Sienna tells me about it in her own little way. She doesn't always tell me directly, but she kind of has her ways of kind of indicating that things aren't all well. But I mean, to be honest, if she ever tells me, I mean, she does, she'll when I FaceTime her in the week, she'll say, oh, we done this with mum and Mark went somewhere and I went with them and all that kind of stuff. And I genuinely show interest. Yeah. For her benefit more than anything. But if she speaks to her mum about stuff and what she's done with me or Jasmine or my mum and dad, it's like, I don't want to know, kind of thing. It seems that way from what I get from Sienna. Yeah. And that's again what I try and do here when she's here. If she wants to talk about a mum or a stepbrother, you know, half brother, half sister, you know, I'll let them, and I show interest to make out to Sienna
that's her life. That's her life, and whether you know you agree with it sometimes or not, I get what you mean. The keep your mouth shut, nod your head, and go, "Wow, that's really interesting." Oh, did you have a good time? Da da da. Because what you make the decision what you do with your kid, and that's their choice to do what they do with their kids, and you know that's their rules, and this is your rules, and you can't do that. You really can't.
But no,
it's not good.
No challenges though. I mean, challenges in abundance, unfortunately. But I think the worst part is, you know, having an ex-wife that even after nearly 4 years. We could barely talk. She'll talk if it's something important about Sienna, but we'll certainly never ever be friends again. we'll never get to that stage. And if there's something that Sienna's done wrong, she's all for telling me, and I'd want her to tell me. I don't want to be completely a party to anything that goes on there. If she's done something wrong and she needs admonition by me as well, then that's absolutely fine. I'll be there and I'll kind of be on the same page as my ex for those reasons.
Yeah.
But when she isn't talking to me about something that Sienna's done or what Sienna needs, I'll drive up to the house. I'm not allowed to knock on the door. I have to stay in the car. Sienna gets ushered out just through a tiny crack in the door and like pretty much the door shut on her back kind of thing. Even after this long, it's just, there's water under the bridge to me now. I could get on with her for the sake of our daughter. And I'd happily have a chat with her about things like that and kind of stand outside and talk to her. But no.
I'm keeping very quiet on this because I'll get in trouble if I say how I feel about things.
No, I think, to be honest, we're probably pretty much in the same boat, aren't we? Or at least
very much
yeah.
So.
Such a shame, but it's just...
It is a shame. And it is hard. It's a very tricky situation. I envy these couples that are best friends, they've amicably broke up, they're amicably best friends, and they go to these children's plays together and their partners are friends, and I think it's wonderful, but it's not real life and it's not all the time, and it's a dream. And
no, it is a dream. It's a dream that one day I'd love to come true, but I think I don't think it'll ever happen, to be honest.
No, and you know what? If it doesn't, it doesn't. I think as long as you're doing right by your child or children, if anybody's listening, I think all you've got to do is concentrate on you and your children's relationship, and that's the most important thing. Everything else is out of your control. So what's the point? What is the point in trying?
At the end of the day, I'm there for her for as much as she needs in terms of being that co-parent figure. And she knows she can call me at any time if there's anything wrong with Sienna or if anything needs to happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
She knows that, as far as I'm concerned, that's all that's important.
Always, and that's it, and the barriers get dropped then for that certain time, because you go, okay, let's get over our beef with each other, and this is the priority. So the next question I wanted to ask you is that children that are co-parented tend to learn quite quickly that if one parent says no, the other may not. Do you have a good relationship with her mother, which we've just clarified is a no? And if so, do you both agree on rules, structure, and what is allowed, not allowed? And if not, how do you handle this situation? Now, for me personally, I have seen, not just with my family, but with other families, and I get it. If I was 14, 15, I would have been causing mayhem. Mum says no. Okay, I'll just wait until I go to Dad's on Thursday. Dad, I need 20 quid. Oh, okay then. And then they get it. And then because they don't speak, the mother's not gone, no, I said no. Because if you're together, mum and dad are in the same room, you can't get away with that, can you? And there's I saw a lot of that. And I don't blame kids. I really don't, because I tried it myself when I was a teenager, but my mum and dad were still together and they would talk at the end of the night, and dad would say, Lynn asked if she could come in at 10:30 while she was working. She said, well, I hope you said no. He says, oh no, I thought you allowed her to come in at that time. And she went, no, I don't at all. So that was the end of that. And it happened once. But that's because they lived together and they spoke together and stuff. So how do you think you're going to deal with it as Sienna gets older and you don't know what kind of teenager she's going to be yet? How do you think you're going to work that with the mother? Are you going to have certain rules in place? She wants to start hanging out at night. Do you talk together and go, this is what I think is acceptable? How are you going to work?
I think personally, we will be able to. Yeah. I mean, as much as we will never get on as anything more than just talking about Sienna and what's best for her. We do know what's best for her between us, and I think we will be able to work amicably. I mean, what kind of rules and that she lives to at a mum's house. Yeah. She has very similar rules here. I don't bend any rules for her. I mean, to a degree now, I'll probably tell a lie. To a degree, I probably do a little bit, because I only have her once a fortnight. I don't want it to be full of rules and restrictions and what she can do and what she can't do. Yeah. But there are limits, and I don't let her push me. I don't let her, take advantage or anything like that. And she knows that herself. But going forward, I think we will be able to work together for the sake of Sienna. So what she can or can't do there, she'll know, the same here as well. Yeah. Fortunately, I think we'll be able to get to that position.
Like what they say, singing off the same hymn sheet, is it? That sort of thing. That's, it's hard. I just thought, like you said, you both love her, you both are parents, and you know that's the number one priority, is making sure that she's okay, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
So Jasmine, as I am a Jasmine of this family, how did you introduce Jasmine to your daughter, and how has their relationship developed over the years? So Jasmine's a bit different because obviously Sienna was a lot younger than what I was when I was introduced to Phil's kids.
Yeah.
How did that happen, and how quickly did you do it?
Okay, so I'm not sure whether you've kind of managed to get this through my Instagram page or not, but Jasmine and I met through Instagram initially. She was living in Germany, actually.
Did you flip into her DMs, Lee?
Kind of, yeah. Several months after I split up from my ex-wife, I just put that out there straight away. But yeah, she did come up onto my feed and, you know, casual slide into her DMs, and it kind of, the rest is history.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
No, we had a few kind of meetups where she flew over and stayed here a week initially. Then it was a fortnight, and then a month, and then after the third kind of visit, we said, you know, I think our relationship is going to go places. And we kind of made the decision together that she would then, on her next time over, that would be a permanent move. So we had a week together in October 17. That was when we first officially met, other than obviously over Instagram.
Yeah.
And obviously before then, I'd gone, you know, she knew my history. She knew I'd got Sienna and stuff like that. She came over then for the second time for a fortnight just before Christmas. We had a week to ourselves down in Cornwall. And then the second week over Christmas was then for her to meet my extended family and obviously Sienna. And I'd told Sienna about Jasmine as well. She was really looking forward to seeing Jasmine. Jasmine was looking forward to seeing Sienna. Yeah. And we went out for Christmas Eve. We went for a meal Christmas Eve day. And that was when the two of them first met. And yeah, they got on really well. Yeah, Jasmine doesn't have any kind of intention of wanting to be a proper stepmother to Sienna, and that, you know, that is Jasmine's choice. I can't force her to be a stepmom, but the two of them do get on really well. They have a nice little bond together. I've noticed certainly over the most recent months, without any kind of me telling Sienna what to do or anything, she'll say goodnight to Jasmine, give her a cuddle and kiss, and she'll say I love you, and Jasmine says, oh, I love you too, and all that kind of stuff. And just things like that. You know, at the beginning, I think Sienna and Jasmine were both quite shy. And I did say to Sienna, come on, you know, don't be rude, say goodbye to Jasmine, or this kind of thing like that when they're little. But now she does it all off her own back. They've got a nice little relationship, but I think as far as Jasmine's concerned, she doesn't want to kind of be any more than just, you know,
I get that. No, I'm the
daddy's
same.
girlfriend. Yeah.
I am. No, stepmom is just a word. Like I've been an auntie since I was 11 years of age, and I didn't want to be called Auntie Lynne then. So I'm always Lynne, and they're grown up now, way grown up, and I'm just Lynne. But if so they said to someone, oh, who was that? They'd go, oh, that's me, Auntie Lynne. So they call me Auntie Lynne when I'm not around to explain who I am. And that's how I feel about the word stepmom. She's got a mum. Sienna's got a mum. Phil's two daughters have got a mum that I'll never, ever, like, she's the one that brought them into the world. She's the one that's brought them up. And I'm quite happy to be dad's girlfriend. And, you know, I'm an extra person within their life that can give them advice, support, and care if they ever want it from me. You know.
Yeah, no, that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm losing the internet. Hang on. Oh, I keep losing the internet. Sorry, this is going to be a nightmare to edit now. Right, go on, carry on.
No, I think from a mother standpoint, again, unfortunately, I think she kind of pretty much forces her new partner to be stepdad. He's got a daughter of his own around the same age as Sienna. Unfortunately, they get on quite well, so it's nice when they're together. But it feels to me that she kind of makes Sienna call her partner stepdad. Right. And when they kind of say, when she said, "Oh, I had to get him a birthday card, and it had to have one that said stepdad on it," and I was like, "Really? Why does it have to have stepdad on?" And it probably me overthinking it sometimes. It's like, oh, is that another dig? Is that just another little dig?
It could be you overthinking it. It could be.
Could possibly be. But
because we share this same view on it, maybe, and your partner does as well. At the same time, if I got a card which I don't think would ever happen, but if I got a card saying, you know, happy birthday to a wonderful stepmom, I think one, I'd drop dead of shock. But two, I think it would be lovely, you know, if that's, it would kind of be like an acceptance. So I think don't push it. And then if Sienna ever wants it, and you might hear her later on in your life go, oh yeah, that's my stepmom. And Jasmine's never pushed her to do it, but that's how,
no.
She won't call it to her face, but that's how she'll introduce her to her friends or future partner or whatever. Oh, that's my dad and that's my stepmom. You know, it'll happen. It's just a word, I think, sometimes that people use.
I mean, Sienna knows that Jasmine and myself are getting married next November, and she kind of said to me a few times that, oh, Jasmine will be my proper stepmom when after the wedding, won't she? I was like, well, if she wants to be, and if you want her to be, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't force anything otherwise.
No, I just think if you force people, sometimes they'll rebel against it eventually. Like, let them make their own decisions, isn't it? You know, she's very young. She accepts Jasmine, and that's fine. Just leave it at that in a minute, isn't it? You know, why push it and make her do something she doesn't want to do? Wow, okay. Well, if you've got, so last question now. Thanks so much. This has been really interesting. I hope I haven't said too much. I'm probably gonna have to edit myself out so I don't get in trouble. For any dads listening who are new to co-parenting, what is the one piece of advice you would give to make the transition as smooth as possible? So what I'm saying is, if there are dads listening now in the situation where they're sleeping on the couch, they're living in silence or rows, or, you know, and they don't want to leave their kids, but at the same time, they can't continue living the way they are, what advice would you give to that person now listening? What, you know, is it worth it? Has it been worth it?
I believe it definitely has. And it was probably the hardest decision I've ever made, leaving a family home and calling time on a marriage. You know, thinking back at it, a lot of the upset that has been caused to our daughter has been my fault because of me leaving. And there's probably not really a day where I don't kind of think about it to a degree and think, you know, this is my fault. This is my fault while she is as she is with the issues that she's got. But overall, I think if I hadn't have left when I did, things would have got a lot worse, and how she is now would be nothing. It would be nothing compared to what she could have been like if we'd have carried on. So it took a lot of balls for me to leave, because there were several times before where I said, right, you know, this is it. But then I thought, no, I can't walk away. I can't leave the family. But once I did, and I, you know, plucked the courage up, packed my bags, and you know, shut that door for the last time, it was kind of like it was over. It was a massive relief. Yes, it's been hard. You know, the last 4 years haven't been easy, but Sienna and me have got a bond that I'd say is unbreakable. And I'm sure if you asked her and she was sat here next to me, she would say exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, it was worth it. As much as, you know, I've inflicted a lot of hurt and upset on Sienna, not directly, but kind of through actions that have taken place on both sides. Yeah, I think it was worth it. And if any dad's in the same position, you've got to kind of be a little bit selfish, because I could have stayed for longer, but I would have been a more upset, bitter, angry person. And I wouldn't have been the best dad that I could have been if I'd have stayed in a relationship I wasn't happy in. So.
No, and I think that's important. And I think, you know, you were saying, you know, there were many times that you thought, oh, I've got to leave, but didn't. I think what I find from a lot of kids of my friends who split up and things is they'd say, you just left, you just got up and left. And kids don't understand that it's not as simple as that. You know, the way they see it is that dad got up one day or mum got up one day and just left, and that was it. Didn't care. Whereas it's hard, isn't it? Because they don't understand adults and how it works sometimes. And like you said, how many times you've looked at that door and gone, oh, I could just walk out that door, but I can't because I've got the kids. But they never see that side of it, do they?
No.
Just getting them to understand, isn't it, why you're doing it, and that it's not anything to do with them at all. It never is.
You know, considering she's like 9.5, I mean, we have had some very, you know, kind of serious heart-to-heart conversations between us, and she knows now, you know, why things happened. And she's at that age where obviously when she was 5 and it all happened, I couldn't have spoken to her like I speak to her now.
No.
But she is fully aware of kind of how things transpired and how things got to the stage that they got to. And I think she is happier now that she knows that I'm happy. And, obviously, I think for a mum as well, she knows that her mum's happy in a relationship.
Yeah.
So that's it, really.
It's got to be better, hasn't it? It's got to be the better option, hasn't it, in the long run?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you ever so much. You've been so honest, and I have as well. And it's been really lovely hearing a dad's side of it as well. And I know I was really nervous writing the questions because I thought it can be such a sensitive subject, this, but at the same time, I genuinely mean it. That day you said, well, I don't know what use I'd be. I only see her every other weekend. I genuinely do think you're a dad and you're so important. I'm a daddy's girl. Well, I was a daddy girl. And my mum said, there's nothing I could have done. It was always dad. Dad, whatever dad said was, was gospel. And doesn't matter whether you see her every other weekend or not, that's never going away. You're always going to be her dad. So you've got a huge influence on her life. And yeah, I'm always interested in what if dads know that, and if dads realize the impact. So you putting all this time and effort into her, it's going to benefit her in the long run. She's got to flourish.
I think the more that, I think about, the more we're in this situation now, I probably do feel a lot more confidence in my abilities as a dad, and as her feelings towards me now than I ever have done before. You take it all for granted when you're there together with them all the time. It's when you're in a situation like this which really makes you appreciate your relationship with your daughter and how you can benefit her life and vice versa, kind of thing as well, because she brings a lot of joy to my life, so.
And that's it, when the other two kids were there and you're watching telly and, the wife's shouting, I know what it's like in this house, it's crazy. And they're only young, the two kids, but we don't get any time as a couple, me and him, at all. And as years go by, Fionn might sit with Phil watching a TV. I'm thinking, it's his ace, I'm sitting with my dad watching a film. But then I could come in and go, oh, so-and-so's on the phone, and pass the phone. Ronnie could come in, and you just don't get, I never got much quality time with my parents one-to-one because there was so many of us. So she's getting that every other weekend with you, and I think that's just going to flourish for her in the end,
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the future there's plans for, me and Jasmine would like to have a family ourselves. We'd like to start a family ourselves. And initially, when I spoke to Sienna about this a good couple of years ago, she wasn't very happy. And this was when she was at the worst of her kind of behavioural,
we had that
probably
as well.
psychological issues as well. She wasn't a party to it at all. And it was, as soon as I mentioned it, it was, I'm going to be left out now, and this, that, and the other. She's come around. I don't think she particularly wanted me and Jasmine to get married initially, but she's grown up a lot over the last couple of years. I think the therapy and myself and her mum have put her through have really helped, and she does seem to be a lot kind of happier and content now with the possibility of having a little brother and sister at some point in the future.
I mean, nobody likes change, do they? And it's being forced upon you, and it must be like, oh, dad's like big change all the time. Mum's got a boyfriend. Oh, he's got kids. I've got to make friends with them now. Dad's got a girlfriend. And I've got to move there. And it's a lot of change for a young kid. I mean, you're saying, I think we're going to get married, and then she's thinking, oh, that's just going to change again. He's going to change towards me. Oh, we might have children. Oh no, I don't want to have children because she'll change on me again. And I get exactly. The panic. What I did is they were a lot older, but it's not half sisters or anything like that. The four of them are sisters. End of. It's nothing to do. I don't like that half sister thing.
No.
Your blood, and that's it. Forever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you ever so much. If anyone's ever got any questions for Lee, have you got a private account on your Insta, Lee? I can't remember.
No, not at the moment.
Can dads message you, or are you happy for that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Handle on here for Instagram.
Yeah, so it's at Lee Holland 1980. So yeah, guys, anytime, advice, support, inbox is always open, as they say. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm so
happy to help.
And if there's any ladies out there that are in mine and Jasmine's situation, then, reach out to me as well on Instagram and the Swan Effect Mum. I'm always happy to have very private, anonymous conversations with you as well, because it is a tricky situation to be the girlfriend as well, and how to balance things properly.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you ever so much, Lee. It's been fab. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn.
Thanks everyone for listening. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.